Welcome to the Covered Podcast. I am your host, Mya-Karren, where we discuss women and how we are showing up in the world. Today's guest is Dana Roberts, the co-founder and the CIO of RedDrop. RedDrop's mission is to normalize periods and period preparation for tweens and their families. Please welcome Dana.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. So let's just get right into it. First of all, I love the name. It is very distinct.
Thanks.
But can you just tell us why you decided to start RedDrop? What's the story behind it?
Yeah, so I am a former educator, about 23 years in formal education. But about 16 years ago, I had a fifth grade girls class. I was teaching in a single gender classroom, and those girls started to have their periods with me, and they were grossly unprepared. And to be honest, I had a fifth grade daughter at the time too. So when I started looking at it, and when I started realizing like, wow, my daughter is right here where my students are, I was like, okay, something has to change. And really the one experience, I had several experiences, but the one experience I had was a girl asked me, was she dying? And I was like, wow, like, this is just not how it's supposed to be. And so I started curating these kits. I called them First Purse, and every girl in my classroom had one. And the girls gave me feedback. They were like, hey, this is great, but these products are like, I feel like I'm sitting on a diaper, or this doesn't absorb well. Why does it feel like this? And so my business partner, Monica Williams, who is my god sister, and she's a serial entrepreneur. And so she was the one I knew I needed to go to because I had this idea. And so I went to her and I was like, hey, I have this idea. We were actually at her home packing for her first business. And she just looked at me and she was like, okay, well, yeah, that sounds great, but I'm really into this business. Her daughter was an infant at the time. Fast forward, life happens, and she called me and she was like, hey, you still, what did you do with that idea? Like, you still have that idea? And I was like, of course I still have this idea. Like, let's talk about it. And of course her daughter, was approaching puberty. And so it's easier when you can relate to it in that way. And so then RedDrop was officially born. I was doing what I could do within the scope that I could do it, but Monica has, like I said, the entrepreneurship experience, and she has supply chain experience. And so that was really, really important for us to, get this company off the ground. I
love that. I always love whenever a company is founded from personal experience or from a gap. And based off of your fifth grade class, you said it was
It was a whole fifth grade girls class. So I had like 25 girls.
And how many students started at the same time?
Oh my gosh, over half of my girls started that year. So I would say about 12 to 13 girls started their period in fifth grade. That whole year with us. And so it's just a huge gap. I mean, when you really think about it, it's like, wow, like nobody thought of this. Like, it really just teaches you that girls sometimes are an afterthought. Like, you have these really, 3 large corporations who make 90% of feminine hygiene products. They have billions of dollars. Where they could really have researched and really talked to girls and moms and made this product a long time ago. But, unfortunately, this part of a girl's journey is just not elevated to the point of where it is really a need. And so we're just trying to change that.
And I was getting ready to say, why is that important to you? But it's clear as why it's important to you. You just kind of said it was an afterthought. And then you also said that your daughter as well.
Right. So my oldest daughter now is 26. And then I have a middle daughter. My middle daughter is 21. And so, of course I was thinking about Sterling at the time, but I was also thinking about Kamani. She would be there eventually. And so it just really just didn't sit well with me. It didn't sit well with me with the products, but it also didn't sit well with me that I was a teacher in this seat, ushering girls into puberty and into this experience. And really, I thought it was grossly unfair to me. I thought this was something that, families should really feel comfortable and empowered having this conversation and setting up your tween or your teenager for success, and not leave it to a teacher, not leave it to a counselor, or a school nurse. And so that is the other part of the mission of RedDrop, is to really empower tweens and their families to really uplift and feel comfortable about having these conversations. And then, really leaning in and supporting teachers, school nurses, counselors, because 67% of girls will start their periods at school.
Okay.
So it's going to happen, so you want to make sure that everyone who comes into contact with a girl is empowered.
And like I said, I love when companies are founded with personal and gaps. But the reason why I wanted to have the conversation with you is because I actually found you on LinkedIn and I saw some of the story, but it hits a little bit more closer to home to me. And the reason why I say that is sometimes we tend to live in echo chambers, or we assume that people grow up like us. And clearly from your company, there is a need. And for me, it's personal because that's how my mother grew up. When she got hers, she thought she was dying as well because she was not aware. So she made the point that when I came along, we went to the library. She put out books and everything. And you said 67% of girls start their period at school.
Yeah.
Were you shocked by that, by the actual statistics and when that happened and how unprepared they were? Because clearly there is a need.
Yeah, I was really shocked. I mean, and that's why I felt compelled to do something. I will say, I honor your story so much, because what I've learned in this journey is that, women come up to me all the time when they figure out what we're doing, and they tell us their first period story, or they tell us their period stories. And so kind of unscientific data is what I realized is that trauma is either passed down traumatically or really just reversed. So like you said, like your mom had a traumatic experience, but your experience was completely different. She ensured that your experience was different. It's usually either or. And so what I've learned is that most of the time, unfortunately, if a parent doesn't get support when they needed it, they don't know how to support, right? They really haven't taken the time, or they're still living in their trauma that they don't know how to support. And so that's why this was really super important. It's just it's so simple. It's like when you think about it, it's just so simple, but it's so complex because as a society, we have sexualized and stigmatized periods. And that's really, the real issue. Why we can't really have these open conversations because of that sexualization of periods.
Yeah. And it is 2025, but are you still surprised at a lot of people who don't know that a lot of girls are still uneducated about their period and or menses? Are you surprised at that?
No, nothing surprises me. Since I've started this work, nothing surprises me at all when I have conversations with tweens, when I have conversations with grown women, and when I'm even having conversations with tweens about just your whole period, your whole menstrual cycle, like what happens to your body. And I'll have grown women to say, wow, I didn't know that. Like that was never taught to me. Most women, they really pay attention to their body in a couple of key life changes. Once you start your period, that's like an aha, honestly, when you become sexually active, when you have a baby, if you have a baby, and then when you get to menopause. And so there are 4 major kind of key life, events that women really pay attention to. Outside of that, they're just coasting, you know what I'm saying? Unless they have issues that they need to go to the doctor to discuss.
So for many women and families, and we just talked about this, it's just something that we don't talk about. It's a very taboo subject. Why do you think that is?
I just think because we've sexualized periods. My grandmother, who I absolutely adored, who meant no harm, right? when I started my period in 6th grade, I remember her telling me, "Oh, you can have a baby now." Well, I just started my period. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and honestly, my mother prepared me. So it was my grandmother who said that. And it was just like, I'm literally just trying to manage how to put on a pad, right? And now you're talking about a baby, and I don't even know right now what's happening with babies, you know? And I just feel like as a society, that's what we have cross-reference periods to, having children. Now, we understand the reproductive cycle, right? But as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, that's not even 17-year-old, that's not the first thing that they should hear.
I will sometimes hear a lot of older women tell younger women, well, you're a woman now, be careful.
Yeah, I am really adamant. I really, really have a pure disdain for for when people say, "Oh my gosh, you're a woman." I'm like, no, she's a child that started her period. She's not a woman. She's not entering this womanhood. Her body has said, okay, biologically, I am about to do this biological function. That's it. She still wants to get on TikTok. She still wants to go to the mall with her friends. She is not a woman. And to fast track her into maturation is really, really unfair. And so I push back on that all the time. But my thing is, like, our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, they're only telling us what they were told, you know. And so that's why I feel like this work, outside of the, having products intentionally for girls, the conversations are really what's going to, impact generations. It's what's going to change generations. My prayer is that it'll change generations, way when I'm gone, that my granddaughter, my great granddaughter, doesn't have to have these conversations anymore. It's just normalized. And she had her period and that was it. And she has products made for her and that's it. It's normalized, right?
So when it comes to the young women, even with their fathers and their mothers and the conversations that you are having, is there sometimes maybe embarrassment or shame that's attached to it?
Oh, all the time. And so I'll give you an example. We do a lot of events and we'll do it with parents, mostly moms, right? They'll come in and they're the ones. The girls are very upfront, outspoken, want to ask questions, want, to have the conversations. And the moms are like deer in headlights. Like, what? Like, and then looking at their daughters like, you want to talk about this? And I'm just like, come on, like.
That's why we're here.
Right. It's why we're here. And really, what it really signals to me is that grown women, adult women, they need care. And I would say mental health care, right? Like, to know, like, this is not, whatever happened, this is not shameful, or you are not dirty, or you're not fast. Yeah. Black folks love to say, oh, she's fast. Like, excuse me, she started her period. She's, oh, watch out, all the things. It's just, we just have to be very intentional about what we pass down.
I like that. So within these events, you said the mothers are deer in headlights and the girls want to ask all the questions. So I'm just trying to understand. So what I'm hearing is that you try to change the language or the words being used around this issue, around the period?
Yeah, we try to change language and we try to change culture. We did, I don't know if you've ever heard of Women Evolve with Sarah Jakes. It's a conference, Pastor, yes. And so she called us and asked us to do an event. They have a Girls Evolve event, while the moms are at the conference. And those girls asked so many questions. Like, it was just like they were free to, like, really just be engaged and to ask as many questions, fear of, like, being judged, or thinking that somebody was watching them or whatever. And it just really elevated, especially for me. And I'm very unapologetic that while our business serves all girls, I am very unapologetic that I have intentional conversations with Black and brown girls because I'm a Black girl, right? And just because I understand the stigma, I'm just real unapologetic that I really want to have pointed conversations, intentional, truthful conversations with Black and brown girls, because I truly believe that if we have these conversations now, they develop advocacy for themselves. They develop advocacy that stretches to when they're adult women and they are more likely to experience, systemic healthcare racism. And so that's why you have these conversations. And I think our parents and our grandparents didn't really understand it that way. But now that we know better, we do better. It's like, no, I'm going to teach you how to advocate for yourself. I'm going to teach you about your body because that's going to really also help you in your relationships. It's going to help you when you go to the doctor. It's going to help you understand if something's not right with your body, and you can clearly articulate it, to whoever you need to.
Yes, absolutely. And then the other thing, passing it down, like you said, breaking the cycle. Should that young lady grow up, have a child, a girl child, she can explain it to her.
Absolutely. And that's how you're going to break the cycle. So, yeah, the work encompasses so much, not just the products. The products are certainly important, but the conversations and building up advocacy for girls is just as important.
It's important. And I would assume that there's a mental component as well.
Yeah, when you say mental, like mental health
or just like we talked about the embarrassment and the shame, you kind of have to change the mindset, especially I would assume starting with the moms, because like you said, the deer in headlights and the girls are they're ready. They have questions.
It is wild, the mindset, and it's not a judgment, it's just really, really, we do like school nurse conferences. And so to have conversations with school nurses who, are they are the people that potentially will stand in the gap, if your daughter has her period at school or it has a medical need at school. And for, us having some of the conversations of thought process behind periods is really amazing to me, and it depends on geographically where you are too. So in the South, geographically, it is really hard to have conversations about tampons, and you would never think that. Because we're a pretty advanced society. But geographically where you go to, it's really hard to have conversations about tampons because women have been taught that tampons or something inserted in your body is sexualized, right?
That as well.
Yeah. And so when girls are trying to find solutions because they're on a swim team or they play volleyball or they just want to wear them, they don't want to wear pads, they're having to really fight these stigmas and these taboos, from parents, from school nurses, from people who just really feel like tampons shouldn't be your first or even second way to go to manage your period.
Or sometimes I would assume to just flat out not buy them.
Oh yeah, I've had parents to say, "Oh, I'm not buying tampons."
This is recent?
Oh, this is last week. Why does a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old need tampons? And I'm like, well, your daughter's on a swim team. How does she manage her period?
What is that parent's response?
The responses have been, well, I just don't feel like she's ready for that, or In particular, we can try swim, period underwear. I mean, swimwear. They have swim period underwear,
Okay.
which is an option, right? But it's just really, and so some people will say it is about the health, like, they're concerned about how, what is in the tampon. And that is, yeah, and that is actually, very relevant. I understand that. But when it is just because you have an insertion of something in your body and you cross reference it to something traumatic that has been, taught to you, it's just really problematic.
So I've heard you talk about 2 events now. For your company, how has funding been? Is anyone taking you seriously? Has it been difficult?
Oh, so, I mean, historically, it is really hard, has been hard for Black women to get investments. We bootstrapped, which means that we, put in our own money, borrowed money, this business to $4 million. And we realized that we couldn't get further unless we had investment. So we started, pitching. We probably have done, oh my goodness, probably close to almost 200 pitches, VC pitches, right? And then we had one Black man who took us seriously, Mac, and he gave us our first $50,000 investment. After that, we did get another investment, and then, we won the $1 million Black Ambition grant from Pharrell. I will tell you that we have applied for so many grants because what we realized early on is that we weren't going to be able to get VC funding. It was just that hard.
For anybody that doesn't know, what is VC funding?
So venture capital, where you have someone who is willing to make an investment, for a particular stake in your company, right? And so it goes back to what I first said about seeing girls and seeing that A, it's a problem, and B, it's a need, right? And while there's this huge white space and we can articulate that with all the numbers, it really just boils down to, do you care enough to think that girls deserve and need these products and this support, right? And also, do you believe that 2 Black women can have the audacity enough to run this business and do this business well? And even after we have, gotten this business to $4 million on our own, we're still having to prove that we can take a trusted investment and make sure that, and we honor it, right? And so with Pharrell's investment, it was really emotional for us because we were being seen and validated, by our own. And then we recently got I don't know if you've heard of the 15% pledge fund. So we did win that achievement grant for $200,000, but that money, those grants have sustained our business. So we still pitch, we're still pitching because we're still raising. But it's really hard. And, I would say this, especially in a time where you have Black businesses that are really struggling, in particular with all of the DEI, conversations, it is really hard to get to the point where you are like this or you're in retail. And so, yeah, funding is really tough for Black women. I would say it's really tough for Black women, Black men, for people of color in general. But for Black women, we get the lowest percent of capital funding in consideration.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. But congratulations on the 15%.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so if a mom, a female caregiver, and or a dad, because I saw that you do have dad kits on your site, wants to open up the conversation about periods with a tween, what are just some basic tips? Where should they start?
That's a great question. I think, first I would ask, if I was doing this again, my first question to my daughters would be like, hey, let's just talk about your body. What do you know? Because I really want to refute what you think you know based on the conversations you might have had with your peers or based on Google.
Or TikTok?
Right. And so I want to hear what you think you know, and then, like, okay, let's have the conversation about what's actual. And I think the first thing you start with is honestly the actual parts of your body. And not just the physical outward parts, but like really your reproductive system. What is each part of your reproductive system and what does it do for you? Because I think when you really turn the conversation of, hey, if you don't have a period, if you don't eventually get a period, that means that your body is not functioning properly. And so that means your body is telling you something. And so I think that is the first conversation or starters that parents can have, or caretakers, right, can have with their tween or teenager to say, talk to me about what you think you know. Okay. And then you can write down what they think they know. And then you start refuting it. And then you start building on what, if they know great things and good knowledge, then you start building on that. But I think that's how you start.
That's how you start. Okay. And then just, and we talked about this before, making it feel like an icky thing. That's something that we definitely need to get past. But I think sometimes the other thing, I just wrote it down, is calling attention to it, which is going to make it even a bigger deal. Right. Do you find that as well?
Calling attention
to it, because there are some girls who will report once they get their period, they call the grandma, they call the mom, they call the sister, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, you're a woman now. Do you think that they should be prepared? They should be prepared, but do you think calling attention to it can actually be counterproductive?
Well, I'm probably going to say something a little controversial, but I would say the first thing you should do is say, okay, you have your period, whatever interaction you have. I don't know if it's congratulations. It's been so long since I've done it. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, oh, okay, congratulations. And after you have the conversation with her, then there should be a permission ask. That's her personal business, to be honest.
A permission asked to tell other people.
Yes.
Okay, I like that. I mean, and it is a very personal thing, but there are just stories out there where it's like by the time you get home, everybody in the family knows. So you're saying there needs to be a permission ask.
Yeah, there needs to be like, hey, like, I'm sure, and even, you can curate it. The experiences, like, we've all been here. Like, this is something really special. It's a rite of passage. It's not you going into womanhood, but it's a rite of passage, certainly. Can I call your grandmother? Can we talk about it? Can I call your aunt? Can I call your godmother? Can we talk about it? And you need to let her say yes or no. You really do. You really need to let her say yes or no. And then if she says yes, then she feels comfortable. If she says no, she's probably still processing it, right? What does this look like for me? What does this, feel like for me? And then eventually she'll get there. And then eventually she'll probably tell her own story. And that's exactly what you really want, to own her own story, to own her own agency of her body, and to be able to articulate what has happened to her body with whoever she wants to.
Okay. So in our community, I heard you say caregivers because we know and understand that there are different demographics when it comes to how our children are being raised. Is there anything a dad should or should not say or do that you have found? Because you do have the dad kids. Yeah. But is there anything that he maybe should shy away from, not say or not do?
I mean, I don't think it's anything that he shouldn't say or do that a mom shouldn't say or do. The first thing I always say is, please don't say she can get pregnant. And I think what a dad should do if they just naturally don't feel comfortable is that if they have a trusted woman in their life, they should lean on them. Because what you don't want to do is provide misinformation, and you don't want to traumatize her. And so, whatever trusted woman you have in your life, hopefully you can lean on that person.
Okay. I love that. That's good.
I mean, my brother did the same. I mean, my god brother, he called his sisters. His daughter started with him on the playground, and so he was like, "Oh, let me call my sisters."
On the playground.
On the playground.
Well,
She was like, I want to say probably 11, 12.
have you found girls are younger and younger with their periods?
They are. So so here's the thing. Girls are starting younger, but girls have always started younger.
Okay.
It's just that we didn't talk about it. And I'll tell you why, and this is definitely not scientific, but I have so many comments on our Facebook, on our Instagram, where, older women are like, I started at 8, I started at 9, I just didn't, we just couldn't talk about it, So while I certainly think that there are environmental things that are actually imposing girls to start younger, hormones, the environment, sure, yes, girls are starting younger. I just think that girls started younger before. They just didn't have the conversation.
Okay, Daniel, so thank you so much. We are coming to the end of our conversation. You have given us a wealth of information, and you have definitely opened up my eyes. So you have some products here, and if you could just go over your favorite ones and then just let everybody know where they can find you.
So our hero product that is wildly popular with moms and caretakers everywhere is our period kit. And so in this period kit, you get 4 different sizes of pads. Our pads have more adhesive, they are odor wicking, and they hold as much flow as pads. You're not compromising absorption. And so you get 4 sizes. And the reason why is because we understand that girls need all types of support and coverage. You also get a pouch like this, which is a pouch that they can put in their book bag, put in their locker, so they're prepared. You also get 7 feminine hygiene wipes, and you get a period tracker. And so we put a little spin on it where you get to track your period with these cute stickers. Here are the months, and you get some information and education as well. Also, our other favorite product we have right now is the tween period pack. And honestly, you still get 4 different sizes of pads and wipes. It's just more of a condensed version of the period kit. And it's a little cheaper, so your price point is a little smaller if you just want to give us a try. But what people are raving about is our period underwear. And so, I didn't grow up with period underwear, but period underwear is basically underwear that you can wear on your period, and you don't have to wear it with a pad or a tampon or a menstrual cup. And so in the gusset you see here, there's a gusset, and this gusset would absorb between, I would say, 2 to 4 tampons of flow. And so what we recommend is that girls still use a pad, because you need to learn how to use a pad. And then once you understand how to use a pad, you don't have to. But this helps from, prevent an embarrassing situation. So while they're learning, if they put the pad up too far, to the front, or the pad too far to the back, and they leak out, at least this gusset is protecting them. And then we have, of course, 4 sizes of pads. We have wipes, we have education, we have digital classes, we have an interactive workbook. We do have a actual chapter book that we partner with Rebel Girls, Growing Up Powerful. And so, you can find us on our website at www.tryreddrop.com. We are on Instagram at RedDrop. We are on TikTok as RedDrop, on Facebook, Pinterest, all the things. So thank you so much for having us.
And like I said, thank you so much for having the conversation with me, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.